All right, everyone, we're going to get started here, and any more stragglers will hopefully find their way and find that audio button. But first off, I wanted to thank you all for coming. I'm joined here by my colleague Sean Hutton, our field operations manager, and
Hey, y'all.
I'm Taro Gold, and I head our outreach here. And we're excited to have you guys. Our number one goal today is for all of you and us two to hopefully learn something new today. And how we'll go about that, our agenda is to present sort of what's been happening in the solar industry that leads us all to be on the line together. And then we'll transition into what we can learn from others and how others have tapped into community solar. And then part 3 will be questions for you guys to ask and for answers for hopefully us to have. So it shouldn't take too long, so hopefully if you guys could hold those to the end, we'll have plenty of time for that. The presentation shouldn't take more than 10, 15 minutes. So without further ado, why are we all here today? And what we really know and what we've seen is that renewable energy is now here. It is a competitive fuel source, and we're no longer just hobbyists here like our friend and gentleman in this orange buggy, powering this with a couple solar panels up top. We've moved on, and while we know coal, natural gas, oil jobs hover under 200,000, we're proud, not of this number here, 74,000, but for the two of us to be employed and part of the 374,000 jobs in solar today. And you know, solar has gone so mainstream that even took this aerial footage here offline of Disney's own solar garden. This is Mickey Mouse here down in Orlando, Florida. They've caught the bug too. They're tapping in themselves, and that leads us to asking, you know, why? How have we come to this point? Really, the number one thing is panels have become incredibly more efficient, driven by technological advances, and those advances really happen because of additional infrastructure to take advantage of economies of scale. So when we talk about mass or more manufacturing and getting better at that, driving more technology, driving more efficiencies. And thirdly is really the environmental and human benefits of solar that really New Yorkers have been leading the nation on in terms of making this a legislative priority for people and for all of us really. So all of this really leads to driving down the price of solar, and we see this here through this graph of the actual price of PV cells from those 70s and 80s all the way down to historical lows right now, which have solar competing against fossil fuels. So that begs the question, how come more people don't have solar on their own roof? And unfortunately, the reality today is that 4 out of 5 of us are still left in the dark. Whether you have an inadequate roof in terms of that roof being too old, shaded, facing the wrong way. Perhaps you're like me, who's still a renter, so I don't own a roof at all. I can't even think about it yet, unfortunately. Or perhaps some of the financial barriers of $10,000 to $20,000 of upfront costs or financing. That certainly doesn't even take into account the upfront time and resources it takes in order to get that payback. That can be, typically we see about 8 to 12 years of waiting. So while we all hope and dream, especially us here at Solstice, of our communities looking like this, with solar panels on every roof possible, unfortunately, the reality looks more like this, with potentially the lucky neighbor or two soaking up the sun, potentially a company or two. But what we want you to imagine, though, is what if there weren't all those barriers? What if you didn't need the perfect roof? What if you didn't need to own your roof at all? You could be a renter. What if there wasn't that $10,000, $20,000 upfront investment needed to make this happen? What if it was so easy you could wake up literally tomorrow and be able to say you went solar? And imagine if this were your new reality. And I want to send it over to Sean to take over from here for a little bit.
Thanks, Tara. Yes, so, I mean, just looking at it, the answer to that question is that absolutely you can call that your community solar garden. So community solar is really the vehicle that allows the almost 80% of New York citizens without that perfect roof to be able to access the economic, environmental, and community benefits that solar energy provides. So by choosing to support a community solar garden that's local to you, you're able to do your part in shifting our energy landscape away from the usage of fossil fuels, in addition to taking advantage of the economic benefits that come from this developed industry. And for the folks in the Central and Mohawk Valley part of New York, this solar garden is actually quite close to home. So our developer partner, a company called Delaware River Solar, a New York company, they're the folks who installed the panels and track its electricity production. They've constructed solar gardens in both Delaware and Chemung counties that allow folks from these areas, as I said, the central part of the state and kind of what's the Mohawk Valley, who are NYSEG customers, to be able to get involved. So Delaware River has really coordinated the work with those local contractors to put these up and then footed the bill to be able to get these panels so that individuals such as yourself are able to take advantage with no initial investment or additional costs. So to really show how all this works, I do want to introduce somebody, but I just want to give just a quick reminder if anybody who came in a little bit late. This is, if you can't hear us, here's how you do it. But just kind of moving on, I want to introduce our good friend, Allison. So Allison is a customer of ours, but was in a situation much the same as a number of you in this lobby right now. Allison lived in Elmira, or has lived in Elmira for almost 30 years. It's where she raised her kid, and it's the place she calls home. She retired a little while back and has since been able to spend a lot of her time volunteering in a variety of organizations in town that give back to the community that has really given her so much. And also, as a former science educator, she's actually been able to put her knowledge and passion to use on a council that advises the city of Elmira on issues of environmental importance, which includes renewable energy in city buildings. But alas, all that passion and knowledge still doesn't change the fact that she has an old and shaded roof. So when I first spoke with her on the phone, she made it apparent that she was looking for a way to live her values and give her neighbors the opportunity to do the same. So, to start off, Allison had a number of questions. And the main one was, how does this work? So that we just ran through it. On the top line, you sign on, or she signed on to receive her electricity from the local solar garden. For Allison, it was actually in a town just next door at no initial cost. Allison sent over a copy of a recent electric bill, so we're able to take a look at her past electricity usage and determine the right number of panels that produce that amount of electricity that she uses within the year. So this becomes her plot in the solar garden, as you see on step 1 there. And then what's going to happen is that once that garden is up and running, Allison's bill is going to be reduced by the current value of the electricity produced by her plot every month. And since this is a renewable energy project, this actually covers both the supply and the delivery portion of her bill. The only portion that it doesn't cover is a small basic service fee. It's usually around $15 a month that all NYSEG customers pay, which we take that into account absolutely when determining her plot initially. So and then going forward, what happens is that Delaware River looks at how much Allison would have paid to NYSEG for that electricity and then bills her separately for 90% of that value. So that's where we see those economic benefits of solar coming into play for Allison. She's guaranteed to pay 10% less than the current rate of electricity for her plot's production every month. And as I'm sure you're all aware, electricity prices can really fluctuate wildly in New York. So that's why we set up these savings as a percentage, as you see there in step 4. Now, this means that no matter where prices move in the future, Allison is always guaranteed to be paying less as a member of the Solar Garden. In addition, we set her up with an automatic payment to both streamline our processing and ensure that she doesn't have to track yet another monthly bill. So every month, Allison receives an email from DRS notifying her of how much electricity her plot produced, how much she owes at that reduced rate, and then her NYSEG bill reflects the energy credits from the garden. And finally, Delaware River gets that automatic transfer of funds for what she owes at that reduced cost from her account. So, of course, Allison's excited about this. This is what she wants, but as a solar advocate, she really wanted to know, what happens when she finally is able to get solar panels on her roof. So luckily, the flexibility of community solar, again, shows itself. If she wants to cancel her agreement for any reason at all she has to do is give us 60 days or 2 months notice and can get out with absolutely no penalty or fee. So, and also if she moves in the area, her plot can move with her. So really, her final question is, why isn't everybody doing this? What is holding people back from getting involved with community solar? And the one catch is really that there's a big upfront cost on the developer's side to be able to put up these projects and allow people to get on with no upfront cost themselves. So what they need a little bit of a guarantee that they're going to be paid back, and thus there's a minimum of a 650 credit requirement in order to get involved. So either Allison or someone in her family or a friend who has that kind of credit is going to be able to take involved. And if you do have a problem with that, please still talk to us, because we at Solstice believe everybody should be able to get involved, and we'll work with you as you can to get you there. So Allison wanted to move forward, as most people do, and was surprised to find just how easy the sign-up process was. So I walked her through that online application, did most of the work for her, really just needed to have a NYSEG bill on hand and then click a button. After 10 minutes, she was fully enrolled in the Solar Garden, and part of that is me explaining all the specifics of the agreement, so she had a full knowledge. But really, in the end, Allison's story doesn't end there. She, like us, saw enrolling in community solar as more than just savings, but really as a community good. And she wanted to share this opportunity with her own community. So with our help, actually, she was able to set up a local information session with one of the organizations she worked with. And not only was she able to help her friends and family save on their bills and help this project, but also raise enough money to send 3 local high school students to a conservation-based summer camp, which is part of a fundraiser that her organization does every year. So Community Solar, as you can see, gave Allison a chance to walk her talk, live her values, and make a positive impact on her community. We love Allison, but you certainly don't have to be here in order to get involved. It really is just an example of the over 250 individuals and families who have already decided to take the steps to support local renewable energy through community solar. And there's still room for you too.
Cool. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate you telling us about Allison. So the benefits of joining. Just to recap for you guys. First off, by joining the Solar Garden, you'd receive a 10% discount on your electricity. That is from NYSEG. You do have to be a NYSEG customer for 6 years. The good news is it's very flexible terms, like Sean said. With 2 months' notice, you're able to leave whenever at no cost. There's no penalty for leaving. There's no upfront cost to join, no ongoing or additional membership fees, nothing like that. It's more just a shift of 90% of your normal bill over to the Solar Garden to support that renewable energy rather than your regular NYSEG bill. So what are the requirements to join? Hopefully some of you are asking that. So we actually have 2 solar gardens available to people joining us today. So a lot of you folks will live in this central C load zone area. This is actually a NYSEG map of the electric grid. So there's 1 solar garden in Chemung County, and if you're in any of the neighboring counties, you're eligible for that one, or perhaps you live over in the Mohawk Valley, Sullivan, Delaware, Shenango, Oneida, any of those counties. Those are all eligible, and feel free to ask us afterwards. If you are curious, we can just look up with your zip code to see if you are actually eligible. So the requirements to join, though, other than being geographically eligible, is a credit score of 650 or higher, like Sean said. That's to assure the developer that you will pay them back over time for those monthly bills for the electricity produced. You have to be a NYSEG customer as well. You have to be tapped into their grid. That's how we can track the energy and how you will receive the credits. So you will actually, your bills will be vastly decreased through NYSEG. What we'll want to do first is look at that NYSEG bill to actually find out how much you're using on a yearly basis. And the last step is to sign an agreement, the contract, that we are more than happy to walk people through, answer questions. Our job is really to spread the education around community solar, so we want to be there to be transparent, make sure people understand what they're signing up for, and make sure it's right for them. Both of these gardens are going live early this year. The one over in Mohawk Valley is actually already plugged in, and we're just submitting the allocations for people to join on. We have 90% of those people signed up already, so just a little bit of room over there. And this is actually a picture of Sean at in the Chemung Solar Garden just last week. Not sure if any of you saw any of the news articles, but we did a little segment out there. You can see the panels fully constructed behind him, and a couple extra ones here, one that Sean is holding up right there in Lauman, New York, east of Elmira. And that is it from our end. So we'd love to turn it over to you guys for any questions you have that we can help walk you through. So we will feel free to chat them in. We'd love to hear any and all questions you have.
Yeah, so question from Jennifer. Jennifer's actually already signed up, so really appreciate you coming in. Is this presentation accessible in the future? Absolutely. So we'll actually be sending out the recording to everybody who's in here to be able to kind of look it over, in addition to a way to set up a meeting with us. But that link you'll absolutely be able to share with folks. So then anybody else who you want us to send it to directly, just let us know. Oh, great question again, Jennifer. Asking about the Chemung Garden. Where does it stand right now? So as you said, that it is completely fully constructed, and really the last step is just to plug it in to NYSEG. So we are going to, we expect that to happen by the end of March. So folks who sign on are going to start seeing those credits on either April or May bill, depending on their bill cycle. But that's where we stand right now.
We're at about 60-65% capacity. We still have definitely a bunch of spots left, so definitely spread the word. But with that said, we do know people who wait often end up missing out, as I think the rest, the last 35% capacity is going to fill pretty quickly, actually.
Sharon, yeah, is there a minimum time someone must be in the program? I guess technically not. I mean, it really is that 2 months, right? Like, you can cancel at any time. You just have to give us that 2 months notice. Obviously, staying in is how you're able to see those savings, but no.
Nope, no minimum. We'd love for you to stay.
We understand if your situation's up in the air, you can't always make those promises. So, yeah, we definitely get in before the project's closed up.
We'll also reach out individually to all of you to share a copy of this recording, and can follow up to schedule any one-on-ones to help answer personal questions, and talk about individual circumstances to make sure one of these solar gardens is a good fit for you. But yeah.
And we're also happy to take a look at your bill if you'd like to kind of point out how this affects it. We're really we're an education-based organization, so we'll walk you through whatever you need. Happy to do it.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to cut the line off here, but hope you guys have a good rest of the day. Look out for an email from one of us over here at Solstice, and we'll keep in touch. Thanks so much.
Bye, y'all.